Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to Education Advisors live webinar on choices at 16 plus. We'll be going through some options for students and parents who are probably around 14 or 15 years old at the moment and considering what to do for sixth form. To give you a little bit of background about who we are, my name is Duncan Quirk. I am the Director of Marketing here at Education Advisors. Now, you probably know us from perhaps one of our two main websites, Best Schools, where we publish a lot of league tables for UK private schools, or perhaps also through our IB Schools websites, which has a bit more of a global slant on it. We also have some other websites all based around private education, so sixth form, summer schools, prep schools, SEN schools. So basically, if you have any kind of questions or queries about private schooling, particularly in the UK, you can come to us and we help families with private school, college and university applications. So, joining us today, we have Mary Murayama, who's our MD here at Education Advisors. And we're also delighted to be joined by Anna Jones, who's Director of AMJ Careers. Now, Anna has worked globally for the BBC and UN. Currently, she runs AMJ Careers, where she helps schools all around the southeast of England, helps schools and their students with career guidance. And also, whilst we don't have a picture of her there, we are joined by Astrid de Bruyne, who I've known for a long time now. She has been in an all-girls boarding school in the UK from year 9. And recently, just last year, she switched to go to a sixth form boarding college. So she'll be joining us to give a bit of insight into it from a student perspective. So, perhaps if you wouldn't mind taking us through what we'll be covering in a little bit more detail today, please.
Certainly. So good afternoon, everybody, and thank you for joining us today. So we hope this will be a useful session for you, for anybody considering sixth form options for either themselves or their children. So we're going to look at the reasons why you might want to do this, why it might be a good idea to look at perhaps changing school when you get to 16 and the opportunities that can provide. We'll have a look at your goals. So it's obviously really important to think about what you want to get out of your final 2 years of school, looking at the right curriculum as well as the right subject choices, and we'll bring in Anna to discuss the ways that you can really look in depth at your interests and your potential options. We'll have a look at the difference between a traditional school and a sixth form college. So these are two quite distinct types of educational institution available in the UK. They offer something different. So we'll look at those in more detail. Boarding is probably something that a lot of you are either doing already or considering. There are some great benefits to boarding at 16 plus, which we'll look at in more detail. Very important, of course, is choosing the right school or college. There are many options out there, and it can be quite a minefield and quite baffling if you don't really know what's available. So we'll have a look at the process of choosing the right school or college for you. We'll then go on to look at the actual application process, when and how to apply, and really importantly, how to make sure that your application is a strong one and will make you stand out from the other candidates. We'll leave some time for questions at the end. There is a Q&A button. Please do feel free to ask questions as we go. Some of them we'll answer, some of them we will pick up at the end of the session. We are recording as well, and this recording will be available afterwards. Thanks very much. At the end, we have a special treat for you as well, I forgot to mention. So why would you change school at 16 plus? So perhaps, this is a good time to bring in Astrid briefly. Astrid, perhaps, just in a few words, could you tell us what motivated you to move schools when you got to sixth form age?
So previously I went to a very traditional English boarding school, but I moved to a more of a sixth form college like school. I changed because I wanted to challenge myself, of course, and meet new people, have a new beginning, as well as going to school which offered the subjects I really wanted to take, as well as having the extracurricular activities that I really wanted to be part in. Yeah, I really like dancing as well as musical theatre, so I moved to a more, not as well as academic, but more of a theatrical school, so I could pursue that alongside academics.
Okay, that's great. Thanks very much, Astrid. So you've really covered, the bullet points that we've got on that screen. Just one thing I will pick up on as well that you didn't mention. Often students might be interested in a different curriculum. So, for example, the IB curriculum is offered by a lot of sixth form schools, whereas it's not offered lower down the school. And we do get a lot of families who are interested in that, and that can prompt people to look at a different school. But certainly, everything on there which Astrid has highlighted, extracurricular activities that you may do. Some schools really specialise in specific areas. Okay, thanks very much, Duncan. Shall we?
Yes, absolutely. Thank you both, and yeah, thanks Astrid for your input as well. Yes, I think now we've sort of had a look at why students might consider moving at sixth form. Anna, perhaps you could take us through how students can start considering their options, the things they need to think of really before taking that next step.
Yes, of course, delighted to be here. So starting with students who know what they want to do, what career interests them and what qualifications they might need. In a way, if you know what you want to do, it makes your subject choices easier. So say, for example, you want to become a doctor. Medicine, you will need to do high-level biology and chemistry. Or say you decided you wanted to be an engineer, you would need physics and maths at high level or A level. It's really important to be sure that you like the subjects that you're going to do and also that you're good at them, because you're going to be studying them for 2 years. And, it's important that they're ones that engage you. Other vocational careers, for example, journalism, may not specify subjects, so you'll have a freer choice of subjects that you want to do at A level. So again, think about ones you enjoy and you're good at. I mean, obviously English is an obvious choice, but it's not essential. And what kinds of soft skills or experience or personal development will help? Well, what do we mean by that exactly? Well, things like confidence building, teamwork, communication skills, resilience, all those kinds of skills that you will develop as people, as young people, and also they're skills that employers will be looking for in the future. So how do you get them? Well, you can get them at school by joining clubs, societies, all those extracurricular interests that Astrid was talking about. You can be in a sports team. That would obviously develop your teamwork and communication skills. You can also gain them from doing external work experience or volunteering, which is also a very good way of developing those skills and also finding out about careers at the same time. And obviously, if you know what you want to do as a career, so say, for example, you want to do medicine, then it's actually an entry requirement to do work experience in the medical field as part of your application. It's a really useful thing to do. You'll also find out if you really are cut out to become a doctor. I mean, one quick example, I knew a student once who thought he wanted to be a doctor, did some work experience and really decided at the end of it that it wasn't for him. He really wasn't keen on blood, so it wasn't a good choice. So he went on to do something else which he was very happy with. relating to biochemistry.
Okay, great, thank you. Thank you. Yeah, I think from Mary and I's perspective, from advising probably hundreds of sixth form students between us on school choice, certainly for students, certainly from our perspective, it's so much easier, as you said, if students know what they want to do, and you can start helping them down that channel. However, this kind of scenario is probably a little bit more common, or it's certainly something that lots of people experience. I think, you know, 14, 15 years of age, and you're telling, you know, or you're a student and you're hearing that you need to choose your future career. You know, it can be quite an overwhelming thing to hear, quite an overwhelming decision to make. Anna, again, if you wouldn't mind, what if you don't know yet, if you're a student?
Yeah, you're quite right, Duncan. You know, most students don't have an idea what they want to do, and that's absolutely normal. So don't worry about that if you don't know what you want to do yet. The main thing is to think about subjects when you're choosing your sixth form subjects. Again, choose subjects you enjoy, you're good at, and will keep your future options open. And what I mean by that is that if you're not sure what you want to do, and if you're a good all-rounder, then maybe you want to have a mix of maybe humanities, social sciences and sciences at higher level. If there are only certain subjects that you like, don't worry, just take the ones that you like and you're good at. You will, as I said, you'll be doing it for 2 years. It's important that you engage with those subjects. You like them, you want to look forward to the lessons, and obviously then the results will be the ones that you're hoping for. Often when you move schools, or not even move schools, when you just go into sixth form of your current school, you will be offered choices of new subjects. So there may be things like psychology or business studies or media studies. There may be a whole raft of new subjects. Make sure you look at those, because they may be another option for you, and they may open up all sorts of career ideas that you haven't thought about before. So talk to the teachers, find out about the course content, find out if you think you'll enjoy it. Talk to current sixth form students. That's a really good way of finding out about new subjects. They can also tell you about workload and all of those things that would be useful to know how it might balance with your other subjects. And obviously talk to your family. But do your research, and if you can do other things like extracurricular research about those subjects, you know, maybe attend lectures. I mean, obviously that's not essential, but do wider reading, that's always helpful. And work experience is also a good way of finding out about career areas that interest you. So, you know, do try and get work experience in any career area that interests you. It might be connected to your subject choice. You may not like it, but that's fine. It's much better to find out earlier than later whether or not it's something you're going to enjoy. It's also a way of consolidating those soft skills that we talked about earlier, things like teamwork, communication skills. And you may want to consider, if you really are, you know, really don't know what you want to do and you want to have a bit of additional help, you may want to consider a psychometric profile assessment. Now, I'm involved with one called Futurewise, which is used all over the world, actually. With the UN uses it, the Army, and even Arsenal Football Club have used it. And basically it's a series of tests that look at students' abilities, personality style, their interests, their learning style. It basically gives you a kind of profile. It allows you time to think about your strengths, maybe areas that you're not, you know, that you need support in. But it gives you an opportunity to think about yourself and what kinds of things interest you. So you do these tests, you will then get a report from Futurewise, and then I can do a one-to-one guidance session with students, going through the report and just having a general guidance session where we agree an action plan for the future. It can be a very useful tool to help you with your subject choices as well as future career choices.
Okay, great. Thank you, Anna. And I think, Astrid, I don't think you took any psychometric profile assessment, but I think you maybe attended summer schools or went to some seminars. Could you give us an idea of the steps you went through to choose your A levels?
Honestly, for me, choosing my A levels was a bit of a difficult journey because I liked so many subjects. I found it a real struggle to pick only 3 A levels. I went to a few seminars. I went to a doctor's seminar as well as an economist seminar, as well as being like an investment banker. So it was like a 2-day talk, and we went there and we listened about what A levels we needed to do to pursue a certain career, and what doing economics and what paths it could lead you. So I attended several, like a doctor's one and like several, to kind of understand what career I wanted to take part in and see if I wanted to pursue it further. Yeah.
Okay. And how did you in the end, how did you come to your decision on what A levels you were going to take?
Initially, I chose more of a sciencey A levels. However, after going to seminars, I realised that I wanted to go to more of like a economics based side instead, and something more to do with business and marketing. So initially, the A levels I chose in the beginning did fluctuate, and I did different ones at the end. Yeah,
Right.
it was a bit of a journey.
Okay. And what are you taking now? What A levels you on?
I take theatre, history, and economics.
Okay. And how's it all getting on? Have you made the right decisions now, do you think?
Yes, I did. I really like how these subjects work together, and how different subjects you could use knowledge and you can put it into a different subject, and it can like help increase your grades and how you write your essays.
All right, terrific. Thank you. Thanks. Okay, well, we're moving on. I mean, it's kind of related to subject choice. Mary mentioned it quite at the beginning of the webinar, about choosing the right curriculum. It is a time at sixth form where you can change. It's not always just about A levels. Mary, would you like to take us it's a bit of a basic overview, but a few differentiating factors?
Yeah, certainly. I think the main choice really at 16 plus is going to be for most students between A levels and the IB diploma, which is just known as the IB now. So traditionally in UK schools, students have studied A levels. It's considered the gold standard of education and the passport into university. So the way the A level curriculum works is you study 3 or sometimes 4 subjects over 2 years, and you take an exam at the end of the second year. They're graded from A star downwards, and university offers are made on the basis of your A-level grades. Because you're only studying 3 subjects, they're very specialised. The academic subjects that you go into in a lot of depth. So, you know, picking up on really what Anna said earlier, it's really, really important that you choose subjects, not only that you're good at, but also that you enjoy, because you're going to be spending a lot of time studying them, usually between 8 and 10 hours a week of teaching. So, yeah, having exams at the end of it, you've got to be comfortable with that process. Advantages are obviously that you can really, really choose the subjects that you want to do. Most schools will give you a free choice of subject. You can pick up new subjects. You mentioned media studies, business studies, etc., which you may not have done at GCSE or lower down the school. And there's a very broad choice of subjects. Another advantage is that A levels are offered by pretty well all the senior schools and colleges in the UK, the private schools, with a couple of exceptions. So the IB is another really, really popular curriculum. It's a global qualification offered by schools all over the world. The key difference really between A levels and the IB in terms of the curriculum is that you have to study 6 subjects. You have compulsory groups that you have to choose from. So you'll be studying a language, you'll be studying your own language, so mother tongue, an additional language, mathematics, a science subject, a humanities subject, and then either a creative subject or another science, another language, etc. So it's very broad, it's great. And Astrid mentioned the difficulty of choosing A-level subject when you like everything. So for a strong all-round student who really has got interest in sciences and the arts and humanities and wants to keep that going for another 2 years, the IB is a very good programme to consider. So yeah, it's a huge workload. It is there's a lot to pack in. With the IB, you also have to write an extended essay. You do a piece of independent research and write an essay. There's a theory of knowledge paper, and you have to do 200 hours of community action service, which is all recorded and is part of your qualification. I should say here that most schools offering A-levels have also adopted something called the EPQ, which is the Extended Project Qualification. This is a piece of independent research that leads to it's equivalent of half an A-level at the end. And it's a little bit like the extended essay in that students have to do a lot of independent research. They develop not only research skills, but also presentation skills, writing skills. Universities like it very much, as they like the extended essay, because obviously independent learning is key to any higher education course. In terms of university progression, really they are equivalent. Universities like students to have done the IB, but equally with A-levels. So there are really no concerns there. It's about choosing the curriculum that's right for you. The IB is not offered by as many schools and colleges, so you will have a more limited choice, but we can certainly advise you on the options. Mentioned here also two routes which are becoming increasingly popular. BTEC qualifications are they have a more vocational slant, really good for students who like hands-on learning and who perhaps don't want to have those final exams at the end of the 2-year course, but prefer to have more continuous assessment. BTECs are very highly thought of by most universities in the UK for certain degree courses. They're usually available in subjects like business, sports science, some in engineering, hospitality, etc. So they are equivalent to A-levels and well worth considering if you feel that you might like a more hands-on study experience in the sixth form. Final column here is international foundation courses. These are a way into university, really in the UK, which bypass the need to take A-levels or the IB. So usually they're taken by students who perhaps are already 17, moving from a different international curriculum and want to study over 1 year specifically to prepare for university. There isn't really time to go into detail about foundation courses here, but we can provide you some more information. So do ask if you're interested in that.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you, Mary. So yeah, I think just those points at the end of this slide about remembering your end goal, again, kind of reiterates what Anna said as well. Which curriculum will be your best pathway towards your goal and which one matches your strengths and interests? I think it's the best way to choose. Now, Mary, you touched upon earlier the difference between a sixth form in a private school and a sixth form in a sort of standalone, more modern college. A few points we have up here. I guess to summarise how we would summarise it when we're explaining this to our clients is if you're joining a sixth form in a traditional school, you have to keep in mind that it is a school. It has younger students, it has students that have been there for some considerable time, but it is a common entrance point for new students to arrive and some students to leave. it's basically what you would picture in your head as your typical Harry Potter kind of British boarding school. In comparison, you have a sixth form college, which are a bit, they're very often more urban, not in the case of Astrid's college that she's in, but very often more urban, more modern. But I'd say the main difference is that they will teach older students. So you won't have 11 or 13-year-olds running around the place. It's very much for the older students. The teachers are therefore very often A-level subject specialists. And often you will have some of these colleges have a greater number of international students, and therefore a bit more of a softer landing for international students, so English language support where it might be needed. The other thing we'll look at is timelines. Generally, the more traditional schools are a lot stricter on their timelines, and the sixth form colleges give you a little bit more wiggle room. But in terms of experience, Astrid, you went to a traditional boarding school. You're now in a more modern sixth form college. How would you describe some key differences between them, really?
My previous school, it was more of like a school sixth form, so there was ranging from year 7 to year 13, so it included sixth form. And this school was very traditional, and the teachers, they were teaching all year groups, and it was very academic and very competitive, and it focused on extracurricular activities, but I felt like it was more academic. Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
But your current college?
Yeah, my current college. It focuses a lot on extracurricular activities, and it has lots of opportunities that you could take part in, as well as being both academic. And it makes me feel so a sixth form college, it's kind of lessening the gap to jump for uni. So going to a sixth form college, I felt that the jump to uni from school would be a very huge gap. However, a sixth form college was more of like a stepping stone in between. Yeah.
Okay, all right. Do I get the impression, do you feel under perhaps less pressure in the sixth form college?
Yes, definitely less pressure. I felt that we had a lot more time to communicate with students, and we do have a lot of free time where we could talk to like your friends, as well as do group activities. And yeah.
Okay, so but I remember you got pretty good GCSE grades in your previous school. How do you? I mean, are you managing your time okay? You're going to keep this up for A-levels?
Absolutely. I will still study quite a lot to keep up my grades, and strive to get the best A-level grades I can. But I also feel having a balanced extracurricular life is quite important as well, because it helps with your self-growth. It can help with your confidence, as well as the skills you have in life.
Okay, fair points. Okay, thank you, Astrid. And on the subject, I mean we've covered a fair bit there. And Mary, do you want to go through a few points about why students consider boarding when we speak to them at this age?
Yes, no, definitely. As Astrid has said, the sixth form is a really important step between the more sort of structured years up to the end of year 11 and going off to university. And I think living away gives you a chance to really explore your interests, to develop independence, and make friends who you'll spend a lot of time with. There's a great advantage to being in a boarding school, because you see your friends not only in the classroom, but after school, activity time, weekends. So you really do have a taste of what it will be like to be at university. But the difference is you're not quite completely independent. You're still within a school environment, so you still have the support of many adults. So not only your teachers and your tutors, but you'll have a house mistress or a housemaster who will be like your parent when you're living away from home. So it's really important for parents to understand that sending your child off to boarding school at 16 doesn't mean, it's not like sending them to university. They're going to be very supported, and there will always be someone to help out if there are any problems. A really important point here is that teachers are available as well. So as well as all the facilities to do the things that you enjoy doing after class, there will be teachers around. A lot of teachers live on site in a boarding school or college. So if you've got any problems with homework or anyone, if you need to have a chat to somebody, there will be an adult around that you can go and get advice from. And overall, I think, it's just a great, fun experience. I hope, Astrid, you would agree with that sixth form boarding really is a very exciting time. So you're in a safe environment, but you still have that freedom to develop friendships and your interests.
Yeah, absolutely. I really like boarding because making friends during lesson times and being in a class is different to making friends outside of lesson times. And I feel like making friends outside of lesson times, you have an opportunity to interact and make lifelong friends, as well as building your communications, as well as expanding your interests, which is quite important.
Great, thanks, Astrid.
Okay, thank you both. And yes, just on the subject, I think we're nearly getting there on how to really kind of narrow down your options and your choices, your needs to kind of choose the right school or college. When we're working with students, we tend to divide it into two sections: the academic side. So are you applying to the right academic level of school? Keep in mind that some schools or colleges can be super competitive to get into. So if you're applying to one of the top ranked schools at sixth form, you already really need to be a top ranked student to have a good chance of getting into those schools. And again, look at your particular subjects. Some schools have better science departments than others, for example. Some have much better focus on drama, performing arts, as I was saying. Look at the learning support for any students that might be coming from overseas for the first time, might need a little boost with their English. Or anyone who's perhaps neurodiverse, falls under that kind of dyslexic umbrella. Again, you might want to look into some depth about that. A few other points there about teachers and university progression, which I think covered sufficiently. So you've got your academic side, and then of course the environmental side. Basically things you can go through and decide, am I going to be happy in this school or college? Is it going to be a good fit for me personally? And once you've got those two things, I think you're really kind of good to go. Of course, there are a wealth of schools out there. We do help you narrow down the actual schools that you can apply to if you want to get in touch with us. Finally, just before we get to questions, Mary Nana, you're going to take us through how to stand out from other applicants.
Yeah. Okay, so I'll just start by giving a very brief overview of the process, because this is really important. And many families come to us not having any idea that they've missed the deadlines for sixth form registrations. So it's really important, if you're applying for September 22 entry, you need to be aware that your child needs to be registered by this autumn, so the autumn of 2021. Now, this applies to the majority of the higher ranking schools. Now, having said, I do also need to say that from our point of view, it's never too late to find a place. You can come to us now for September 21 entry, and we will find you a place in a good school. However, if you want to have all the options open to you and you want to apply to those top ranking, highly competitive schools, you really must start very soon so that you're ready to register this autumn. So the deadlines vary, which makes it a little bit complicated. Unfortunately, there isn't just one deadline that we're working towards. Each school has its own deadline and slightly different procedures, but we can certainly guide you through that. Most schools, having asked you to register by usually the end of September, beginning of October, will invite you to take entrance tests in November. Usually these are in the subjects that you want to study, either for higher level in the IB or for A level. There may also be an English test, and there may be called a CAT 4 test, which is it's a reasoning on verbal, non-verbal reasoning, English and maths, cognitive ability test, which are becoming increasingly popular with schools. These are taken online. Students are usually interviewed as well for entry to the top schools, and this, obviously under the current circumstances, is usually done by video, but hopefully in the autumn students will be able to come and see schools face to face. So in terms of the process from our point of view, really over the next few months you should be looking at the type of school that you want to apply to, finding out as much as possible about those schools before you have to register. So schools are having virtual open days over the coming months, so it's important to see those, to register yourself for those. If you can visit in person, that's ideal, but obviously we don't know if that's going to be possible in this summer term. But certainly, you need to be looking at options now. You need to be talking to people, to us, and we can help you with those recommendations. And then Anna, I think, is going to talk about, once you've chosen your school, so how do you make sure that your application stands out?
Yes, thanks, Mary. Well, obviously, personal statement. The majority of your personal statement will be obviously your academic achievements and how you meet the requirements of the particular school, what you're good at, why you enjoy those subjects, and why you've chosen to do specific subjects in sixth form. But it's also a personal statement, which is, that's the key. It's personal to you. So make sure that you add all those other things about you that make you individual and make you stand out. So, Astrid has got a huge profile as a dancer, so that's something that you may be a fantastic swimmer, or you may have done extraordinary things either through school activities or maybe through work experience or volunteering. What have you done that makes you stand out and gives you a bit of an edge? Have a think about that and try and do things before making your application. Tuition. Now, we spoke a little bit about the psychometric profile, how it can highlight your strengths. Equally, it can highlight areas where you may need additional support, and you may want to consider tuition for entrance assessments, and that's something that education advisors can help you with. Interview practice, this is an interesting one. It may be the first time you've ever had an interview. It may sound a little bit odd, but what you can do is you could practice in front of a mirror. You will see yourself as other people see you. You may see that your body language, there may be things that you notice when you're answering questions to yourself in the mirror. Think about the questions they're going to ask you. How would you answer them? What are you applying for? Why are you applying for it? Why are you a good fit for that particular school? So practicing in front of the mirror is one way. You can ask your family to help you, to be a role play, so they can be the interviewer, you can be the interviewee, or maybe a friend. Again, they will give you good feedback on how you come across in the interview and what things you can do to improve your performance, because obviously you want to come across as being enthusiastic, capable, and the right person for that school. So ask for help for interview practice.
Terrific, thank you very much, everybody. Right, so I think we've got about 20 minutes left for some questions. Mary, can you see the questions at the moment?
No, I don't think anyone's asked a question yet.
I see. Okay, well, if people do have questions, please, now is the chance to fire away. Please do so.
Thank you very much for the comment that this is helpful. And notice the chat is open. If you're struggling with the Q&A, please do put your questions into the chat, and we'll certainly answer them there. So we will follow up with an email to everyone who's attended with some more details. Duncan, did you want to perhaps go on to the sorry, we have got some questions here. So, can you see the questions?
I can't, no.
Right, okay, shall I put the questions then? So
Yes, please.
so a question, sorry, bear with me for a second. Okay, so how long in advance do you need to prepare? My son is turning 14 this year, for instance. So really, in terms of preparation for looking at schools, you need to start when your child is in year 10. So this is to give you the biggest range of options. So for a child who's going to be 14, in year 10 and be 14, 15, bearing in mind that you will need to register in the autumn before they start the school. So it's really never too early to start thinking about your options, but in terms of the actual practical preparations, think about it really from the Easter of year 10, so from now onwards, and then make sure that he's registered in the autumn of year 11. I hope that answers your question.
Mary, one thing I wanted to add to that, Mary, as well, is something perhaps that the parent can tell their son, is that when you apply for a sixth form school, they generally ask to see the last 2 years of school reports. So that will be year 9 school reports and year 10 school reports. They generally ask to see those. So I would always say to parents to start to make sure your child knows that when they're starting year 9, because to apply for the very top competitive schools, you need some standout reports going back a couple of years. So it's worth mentioning that to any student involved.
Yeah, no, indeed. Thanks, Duncan. A question here about which are the higher ranking schools? This is something we're always asked, and we completely understand parents who are investing in a private education will often come to us and say, I want the best school for my child. We compile, as a company, we compile league tables of the top independent schools in the UK and the global IB schools as well. So in terms of results, it's quite easy to just have a look at a league table and you can see usually the same schools really in the top 10 for each category of school. What's really important from our point of view as consultants is choosing the right school for your child. So it's not about identifying the top 3 schools or the top 5 schools in any category. You have to find the right school for your child. And as Duncan touched on earlier, there are 2 aspects really. Look at the academics. Is your child going to be suited to a high pressure, very fast-paced environment? We do offer academic profiling testing as well, which can be really useful, and it's based on the sort of CAT4 model, and will give you a very personalised report which will show how your child sits in relation to their peers in an independent school in the UK. So really that is a starting point. So rather than just looking at the names of the top schools, really find out what's going to be best for your child. So I hope that answers the question about ranking. So we can send you links to our league tables so that you can see which are the highest performing schools. There's a question here about psychometric testing. Anna, could you perhaps say a little bit more about that and how it works?
Yeah, there's basically, as I mentioned, that there are the Futurewise test, which I spoke about. There are 6 tests. 4 of them are time tests, and they're verbal, non-verbal, abstract, reasoning, and memory and attention. So I think they take roughly 20 minutes to complete. And then the interest and personality style are questionnaires. Now they're very much, the results of these tests help you think about careers. It comes up with career options based on the results of your tests. And it also can be helpful with choosing subjects for sixth form as well. There is a link to Futurewise, which there's a YouTube video which gives details about the psychometric test, which I can forward to you, Mary, if that would be useful if people wanted additional information. And I think that's probably the best way for people to find out more about it.
Brilliant, thanks very much. Good question here, one that we're often asked. The student is on the regular sort of UK curriculum, taking GCSEs perhaps. Can they do the IB? Certainly, yeah. So the IB is open to students really who've on any curriculum up to 16 plus. So all schools, when they're looking at an application for sixth form, will take into account what the student has studied up to that stage. So this means that school reports are really important, teacher comments, recommendations, etc. Obviously, if you have taken GCSEs, then schools will be interested to know your results. Often they'll be looking at predicted grades, obviously, because you won't have taken them by the time you get an offer from a school. Most of the IB schools will set entrance exams of their own. So they will be basing their offers on their own entrance exam results. And likewise, students have often studied the NYP or another international curriculum and want to come here and study A-levels. Again, that's not a problem, provided the school thinks that you have the necessary ability to tackle the A-level subjects, then they would make you an offer. Question here about applications for this September. Absolutely not too late. There are a lot of schools, and certainly the vast majority of the private sixth form colleges are still accepting applications for this September. So please do get in touch and we can advise you on your options. There will be some schools that have completed their application process, but unfortunately that is always the case at this time of year. A few questions about how to make your application stand out. I think, Anna touched on this. It's about really presenting the person that you are. So being honest about your interests. There aren't specific things that schools are looking for, but basically any school will want to have students who are bright, who are motivated, who are interested in contributing to the school environment. So it's not that they're looking specifically, they have to have been a member of 6 sports teams and orchestras and choirs, etc. But they're looking for students who are interested and passionate about what they do. And we can certainly help you with personal statements and sort of bringing out your interests. It's amazing how many students don't really tell us what they're interested in, and things just sort of come out by chance in a conversation. And think, wow, I didn't know you were a champion ballroom dancer. Well, I didn't know schools would be interested in that. They absolutely will be. So that's all part of the process of preparation that we can help you with. There's a question here about, can you see the questions as well, Anna?
I can.
Yeah, okay. I don't know if you want to just address the one about the work experience and manage to start that.
Yeah, sure. work experience, usually in this country, you have to be at least 16 to do work experience because of health and safety regulations in employment situations. So 16 is probably the earliest you could do anything. Some companies may say 18. However, volunteering, there are organisations that may take you at a younger age. I know there are some charities that may consider you 14 plus for volunteering, but it's a question of doing your research into the areas that you want to either do work experience in or get voluntary work in. A way to kind of circumnavigate that is to talk to your family, your friends, your network of contacts, and if you know people who are happy to take you on for a few days in a more informal context, then that's obviously something you can talk about with them. So there may be ways of doing it at 16 in an environment that you want to be in. So yeah, there isn't a specific age. Obviously, some people start doing jobs or part-time work when they're younger. In this country, you might do a paper round when you're 14. Deliver papers to people's houses, but that's quite unusual. But it's do what you can. Any work experience, as I said, is good work experience, because even if you don't like what you're doing, you're going to gain something from it. You're going to gain these skills that we've been talking about, that are going to be so important for the future, either for your school application or for future university or job applications.
Right. Thanks, Anna. There's a question here about fees. Now, obviously, this is a really big question for families. Currently, it's just a very general figure. Obviously, there is some variation, but you're looking at between £10,000 and £15,000 per term for boarding and tuition. So some schools are a little bit more than that, some are a little bit less, but on the whole, we would advise parents to budget between sort of £35,000 and £40,000 a year. So 3 terms in the school year in the UK. So obviously on top of that, you've got things like flights, guardianship, uniform, etc. in some schools. But you are looking realistically, you need to be budgeting around £40,000 a year. Obviously, when we're working with families, we discuss your budget with you and we try to find options that will be realistic for you.
I think as well, on top of that, Mary, obviously you're talking about boarding there, prices opposed to day fees will vary. But as well, I find particularly more amongst the sixth form colleges, as opposed to the more traditional schools, they can be a little bit more generous with scholarships and discounts, particularly if you're a high performing student. So yeah, I'd say certainly to have a wide range of options. As Mary's saying, you're probably budgeting around £35,000 to £40,000 a year for boarding. But if you do have a lower budget than that, we can very often find things that might fit. You just have a smaller range of choice, really. Were there any other questions to go through, Mary? We've got a few more minutes.
There's a couple of questions about the IB and A-levels. What I suggest here, there isn't really time to go into detail, but we do have an e-guide which I can send out. So if you're specifically interested in the IB curriculum, please do email after the webinar and we'll send you out our e-guide, which explains the differences. And I think, Duncan, you're also going to just talk about our special treat at the end,
yes,
which families might like to follow up on, and which to be an opportunity to discuss it with you personally.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, shall I go on to that?
Yeah, I think
now,
so.
then?
No, thanks, Duncan.
Okay, great. So yes, our special treats. Thank you for everyone and anyone who's made it through this far to the end. So yes, for today's attendees, we're offering a free video consultation. It's usually about an hour long over Zoom or Skype or whatnot. You can send us your child's or your recent school reports. We'll go through those and then we'll have a chat with you, basically to take a more personal approach to what we've been through today, and outline everything for you. So I did realise earlier today it's a bank holiday on Monday, so we won't be in on Monday, but if you do send things through today and over the weekend, we'll be back in touch, if not today, then on Tuesday, to arrange a time to speak with you. So yeah, please do send things through. Were there any final questions or comments from the panel at all?
Not from me.
Okay, everyone's shaking their head.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
And we're done with the questions, Mary?
I think so. Please shout now if there was anything particular that you would like us to answer that we haven't. We'll just leave it open for a few more minutes. Yeah, I hope it's been useful for you. We will follow up with an email to everybody. Yeah, and by all means, contact us if you'd like to take advantage of that video consultation. I'd be very pleased to speak to you.
Okay, wonderful. Well, thank you everyone for attending. Thank you to Mary, Anna, and of course Astrid for your contributions today. And yeah, to attendees, we look forward to hearing back from you. Just get in touch as and when we can offer further advice. Okay, thank you everyone. Have a good weekend.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Bye bye.